Let's talk about an effective strategy that you can use to get a federal government job. And the first thing that we have to talk about is the federal resume. This is incredibly important because it doesn't matter about your experience, it doesn't matter about your education or who you know. At some point, you're going to have to give that federal resume to a human resource specialist or to a hiring manager, and they're going to have to look at that and make a decision. So you don't have to pay someone to do your federal resume. I know some people out there charge upwards of $1,000 just to do your federal resume. But there's another way to do it. One thing is you can know somebody. You know somebody in the federal government that has a job series that you're interested in. Ask them to share their resume with you so that you can look at it. You're basically looking at the structure, how things are quantified, how the achievements and the accomplishments, how do they look on there? And then you match it with yours. So you need another resume, ideally, to help you. And then take the OPM Job Series Handbook. Those two things. You need an example, the Job Series Handbook, and then you can start building, crafting, and tweaking your resume to make it as strong as you can. Now, if you don't know anybody, what I would say is to get on LinkedIn. There's tens of thousands of federal employees out there. If you're willing to send them a message, maybe form some sort of connection, a relationship, and then at a certain point you can ask them, hey, can I look at your resume? Do you mind sharing your resume? Or can you give me some feedback on mine? Now, before you start building it, like I said, you need to know what job series you're competing for because there's hundreds. So once you have that information, you can start building it. Now, if you don't know anybody, if you're not willing to go on LinkedIn to make a connection, I wrote a 0343 and a 0340 resume from top to bottom, complete. It's like 4 or 5 pages. I included success stories, achievements. It's structured in an effective format. And if you want to download that, check out the pinned comment below. The number one complaint that people have when dealing with the federal hiring process is that they're not getting referred and they're not getting the interview. And this all comes down to your resume. So you need to take this seriously. Make sure that you have this step down. Also, in addition to tailoring your resume to match that job series, you have to read the job announcement. Read the entire job announcement. Make sure your resume is relevant. It has relevant experience that address the job announcement when it comes to the qualification, the specialized experience area. The next thing you have to do is start applying. You can have the best resume in the world, but it doesn't do you any good unless you're actually out there applying. And it needs to be a habit. 3 or 4 times a day, get on usajobs.gov, apply to job announcements that match your job series. Now, some people, they say they can't do this because of the location. And I kind of understand that. If you're in a small area, there are not that many opportunities around. But what I would suggest, if you live in one of these smaller rural areas, look at other job series. Okay, so if you're aiming for 0085, expand out, include 0301 because you can be qualified for that. So if the opportunities are limited in your area, you have to research, look at other job series that could match your experience, build resumes that are targeted towards them, and apply more. Look at the remote positions. There's about 500-600 remote positions that are available. Apply to those also. Now, you want to make sure that you're not wasting your time when it comes to applying to job announcements. So as you look through there, you can tell if you're not going to be qualified or you're not going to be eligible. One of the ways you can tell is if you're looking at the job announcement, say it's for the Department of Agriculture, and it specifically says in there they want somebody that has experience with Department of Agriculture systems. Well, that's not for you. They're targeting somebody that used to work at the Department of Agriculture. And if you haven't worked there, don't even bother applying for that one. The same thing can be said about other systems. If you have zero knowledge on what they're talking about in that job announcement, you probably do not have any business applying because you're going to waste your time. Once you start applying, you will have to fill out that self-assessment where you're clicking how proficient are you in certain skills. So what I recommend a lot of times is to click that you are an expert at that skill. If you cannot do that comfortably, if you cannot mark expert on the majority of those questions, that job announcement probably is not for you, okay? Because what you will end up doing if you mark the first, second, or third option, you can disqualify yourself even before it gets to the computer and before it gets to the human resource specialist. And what we do not want to do in this type of situation, we do not want to waste time. Okay, the next thing is the interview. Now, I've helped people get to the point where they're referred, and I've helped people get to the point where they get the interview. But I cannot sit in the interview room with you. I just can't do it. You have to be the one. Most interviews are through the computer, right? They're like just like this, right? You can see them, they can see you. You wave at them, and you're speaking through Skype, through Teams. You need to rehearse and get better at speaking at the computer. Speak at the computer's camera, and you have to communicate your value. This is what I offer. These are my experiences. Have success stories that demonstrate your competence and your value as it relates to the job announcement. If the job announcement is for a 1700 series and it talks about instructing and training and teaching and designing curriculum, your success stories should involve that. Talk about when you redesigned a curriculum and what was the impact of an increase of 15% when it comes to graduation rates at the end of the semester. Whatever it is, have your success stories, rehearse them over and over again until you are confident. People will assume that you're stressed, and you will be stressed, and there's nothing wrong with being stressed. But despite that, you will have to convey and articulate why you're best qualified. Now, if everything goes well with the interview, after the interview, the human resource specialist should contact you through email or phone call, and they will ask you, is it okay if we contact your references? And then shortly after that, hopefully you will get your tentative job offer. Now, if you've been having problems with this process, maybe you haven't implemented this strategy, maybe you have and you had not had success. One of the ways that you can make this whole thing a little bit easier is if you have non-competitive eligibility. There are different pathways to get a government job where you do not have to compete with the masses. If you want to learn about some of these pathways and if you're qualified for them, then I want you to watch this video next. If you would like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.